Hi, scholars, and welcome to our read aloud today of Auggie and Me, the Three Wonder Stories. We are continuing with our Julian chapter on page 28, and this portion of our chapter is titled Mean. Look, I didn't start out being mean. I'm not a mean kid. Sure, sometimes I make jokes, but they're not mean jokes. They're just teasing jokes. People have to lighten up a little. Okay, maybe sometimes my jokes are a little mean, but I only make those jokes behind someone's back. I never say stuff to anyone's face, and that will actually hurt someone. I'm not a bully like that. I'm not a hater, dudes. Does that make it okay, scholars, to say something behind someone's back? No. We've got to treat everyone with kindness. Attention, people, stop being so sensitive. Some people totally got the whole Photoshop thing, and some didn't. Henry and Miles thought it was so cool and wanted my mom to email their moms a photo. Henry and Emos thought it was weird. Charlotte completely disapproved. I don't know what Jack thought because he had never gone over to the dark side by now. It's like he totally abandoned his people this year and only hangs out with Auggie now. Which bugged me because that meant I couldn't hang out with him anymore. No way was I going to catch the plague from that freak. That was the name of the game I invented, the plague. It was simple. If you touched Auggie and you didn't wash off the contamination, you died. Everyone in the whole grade played, except for Jack. And Summer? So here's the strange thing. I've known Summer since we were in third grade, and I never really paid attention to her. But this year, Henry started liking Savannah, and they were like going out. Now, by going out, I don't mean like high school stuff, which would be kind of gross and barf disgusting. All it means that you're going out is that you hang out together, meet up at each other's lockers, and sometimes go to the ice cream shop after school. So first Henry started going out with Savannah, and then Miles started going out with Zima, and I was like, yo, what about me? And then Amos said, I'm going to ask Summer out. And I was like, no way, I am. So that's when I started to kind of like Summer. But it totally bit that Summer, like Jack, was on Team Auggie. It meant I couldn't hang out with her at all. I couldn't even say hi to her because a freak might think I was talking to him or something. So I told Henry to have Savannah invite Summer to the Halloween party at her house. I figured I could hang out with her and maybe even ask her to go out with me. That didn't work though because she ended up leaving the party early, and ever since then she's been spending all her time with that freak. Okay, I know it's not nice to call him the freak, but like I've said before, people have to start being a little less sensitive around here. It's only a joke, everyone. Don't take me so seriously. I'm not being mean. I'm just funny. What do you think, scholars? Is Julian being very funny? I don't think so either. And that's all I was doing, being totally funny. The day that Jack Will punched me, I had been totally joking, just fooling around. I didn't see it coming at all. The way I remember it, we were just goofing around together, and all of a sudden, he whacks me in the mouth for no reason. Boom! I was like, ow, you crazy jerk face, you punched me. You totally punched me. And the next thing I know, I'm in Nurse Molly's office holding one of my teeth in my hand, and Mr. Tushman is there, and I hear him on the phone with my mom saying they're taking me to the hospital. I could hear my mom screaming on the other end of the line. Then Miss Rubin, the dean, is leading me to the back of the ambulance, and we're on our way to the hospital. Crazy stuff. When we were riding in the ambulance, Miss Rubin asked me if I knew why Jack hit me. I was like, duh, because he's totally insane. Not that I could talk much because my lips were swollen and there was blood all over my mouth. Miss Rubin stayed with me in the hospital until Mom showed up. Mom was more than a little hysterical. As you can imagine, she was crying kind of dramatically every time she saw my face. It was, I have to admit, a little embarrassing. Then Dad showed up. Who did this? Was the first thing he said, shouting at Miss Rubin. Jack Will, I answered. He's with Mr. Tushman now. Jack Will, cried his mom. We know the Wills. How could this have happened? There will be a thorough investigation, answered Miss Rubin. Right now, what's most important is that Julian is going to be fine. Fine, yelled Mom. Look at his face. Do you think that's fine? I don't think that's fine. This is outrageous. What kind of school is this? I thought kids didn't punch each other at schools like Beecher Prep. I thought that's why we pay $40,000 a year so that our kids don't get hurt. Mrs. Albans, said Miss Rubin, I know you're upset. I'm assuming the kid will get expelled, right? Said Dad. Dad, I yelled. We will definitely deal with this matter in the appropriate way, I promise, answered Miss Rubin, trying to keep her voice calm. And now, if you don't mind, I think I'll leave you guys alone for a bit. The doctor will be back, and you can check in with him. But he said that nothing was broken. Julian's fine. He lost a lower first molar, but it was on its way out anyways. He's going to give him pain medication, and you should keep icing it. Let's talk more in the morning. It was only then that I realized that poor Miss Rubin's blouse and skirt were completely covered in my blood. Boy, mouths do bleed a lot. Later that night, when I finally could talk again without it hurting, Mom and Dad wanted to know every detail of what had happened, starting with what Jack and I had been talking about right before he hit me. Jack was upset because he paired up with the deformed kid, I answered. I told him he could switch partners if he wanted to, and then he punched me. Mom shook her head. That was it for her. She was literally madder than I'd ever seen before, and I've seen my mom pretty mad before, believe me. This is what happens, Jules, she said to Dad, crossing her arms and nodding quickly. This is what happens when you make little kids deal with issues they're not equipped to deal with. They're just too young to be exposed to this kind of stuff. That Mr. Tushman. And she said a whole bunch of other things after that, but they were kind of inappropriate, if you know what I mean, for me to repeat. But Dad, I don't want Jack to get expelled from school, I said later on that night. He was putting more ice on my mouth because the painkiller had given me at the hospital had worn off. That's not up to us, he answered. But I wouldn't trouble myself about it if I were you. Whatever happens, Jack will get what he deserves for this. I have to admit, I started feeling kind of bad for Jack. I mean, sure, he was a total meaniehead for punching me, and I wanted him to get in trouble, but I didn't want him to get kicked out of the school or anything. But Mom, I could tell, was on one of her missions now, as Dad would say. She gets like that sometimes when she gets so outraged about something that there's just no stopping her. She was like that a few years ago when a kid got hit by a car a couple of blocks away from Beecher Prep, and she had like 1 million people sign a petition to have a stoplight installed. That was a super mom moment. She was also like that last month when our favorite restaurant changed its menu, and they no longer made my favorite dish the way I liked it. That was another super mom moment because after she talked to the new owner, they agreed to special order the dish just for me. But Mom also gets like that for not so nice stuff. Like when the waiter messes up a food order, that's a not so super mom moment. Because, well, it can get kind of weird when your mom starts talking to the waiter like he's 5 years old. Awkward. Also, like Dad says, you don't want to get a waiter mad at you. They have your food in their hands and all. So I wasn't totally clear now how I felt as I realized my mom was declaring war on Mr. Tushman, Auggie Pullman, and all of Beecher Prep. Was it going to be a super mom moment or a not so super mom moment? Like, would it end up with Auggie going to a different school? Yay! Or with Mr. Tushman blowing his nose in my cafeteria food? What do you think will happen next? Tune in tomorrow for more of our Read Aloud. Have a great day, scholars. Bye.